Hi, everyone. Good evening. I hope you are all doing very well. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your time here. I hope you're going to get value out of this class. My name is 𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐍𝐄𝐂𝐓. I'm a business analyst and a product owner. And this is actually the third class for business analysis. Okay, so hopefully the next hour will be one of value for you. So, some of the things we're going to talk about again is I'll talk through what is a T-shaped professional, a bit about the Agile framework, which is a methodology that is used for project delivery and what we usually use here in Blue Sky. I'll just talk you through what that is from a BA's perspective. Then we're going to talk about requirements hierarchy. Remember on Wednesday, we talked about documenting requirements. So we're going to talk a bit about the document hierarchy for it, and you'll see it this way. So the epics, features, user stories, and tasks. I'll explain what all that is. And then we'll have like a quick exercise if we have time. If not, I'll just share the screen and you can take it home with you. And then if you have questions and answers, we can take it then. You can actually ask me questions and answers during the class if there's anything at all you don't understand, or there's a question you want me to explain a bit further, you want a bit more clarity on, please feel free to just unmute because I can't see if your hand is up. And if you drop it in the chat, we can um, go over it when the class is over and I stop sharing, and we can just go through all of that. But please feel free to ask questions. In fact, that's part of what I'm going to talk about in the first bit. I always like starting with a pro tip. For the first two classes, my pro tip was get your glossary or your jargon buster. I hope you still have it ready because you're going to hear a lot more um, terms that have to do with business analysis. And once you document it and you understand it, it helps it stick better. But for this particular class, my pro tip is that business analysis skills are like a muscle, right? If you don't use it, they'll atrophy. You have muscles in your body, but if you don't work them, they'll just become weak. It's almost like you don't have anything. But the more you use it, the stronger that muscle becomes, and you start using it without even being conscious of the fact that you're using it. So make sure that you, again, I keep saying a lot of what we say here is stuff you can find online. It's not new. There's actually courses and books on all of this, so it's not exclusive to Blue Sky. But what is exclusive to Blue Sky is the practical knowledge you're going to get in addition to the theoretical knowledge that we're sharing. But it won't help you if you just keep quiet and you don't practice anything. So please make sure you practice what you hear. And if you're giving exercises, I mean, unmute and talk. Yeah, just unmute and talk, regardless. Okay. All right, let's go straight in. I like showing this because it's a reminder of, again, the value you're going to get out of the internship. The first class was an introduction, a general overview, introduction into business analysis. The second one was requirements elicitation and a bit about documentation, right? I was going to talk about stakeholder management and identification because regardless of what role you're in, business analysis is very important to business analysts. They ask us about it all the time, and it's part of our job, to be honest. But it's something every role can benefit from. So I almost wanted to talk about that, but it's fine. When you guys come in, we can do that. But I decided to go with an extension of what I talked about yesterday. Still not the full thing. Again, all these things are full classes on their own. But I just wanted to talk a bit more about user stories and acceptance criteria. I didn't mention acceptance criteria the last time. So just to reiterate what I talked about on Wednesday and actually broaden it a bit, give you a bit of a broader picture. So we're going to talk about user stories, a bit more about user stories today. So um, I don't know how many of you have heard about I've heard the idiom, jack of all trades is a master of none. That's not the full thing. The full thing is a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. So a lot of times when you hear just the first part, it almost seems like they're telling you, oh, just focus on one thing and stick to it, But to be honest with you, the more you know, the better you'll be able to assimilate into different environments. And being a BA, it makes it really good. Any BA, any skilled BA can go into any industry, any company, any domain, and do their job very, very well. However, the more you know, firstly, your tools as a BA becomes larger. You whatever situation you go into, you have more of a choice as to what to do. Okay, this one doesn't work, you use this tool. This technique doesn't work, you use this other one. You have more of a choice as to what to do in any circumstance you find yourself in. But not only that, your um again, like I said, the diversity of your experience is actually a competitive advantage. The more you can add to what you know. That's why when we keep saying anybody can be a business analyst, we're not playing. Bring your knowledge. You're not going to throw away your experience or throw away your knowledge up until this point. You're going to make it work for you. So whether you are a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse, an accountant, you worked in education, you worked in a chat, whatever you have done in the past, is part of your skill set as a business analyst. You're not going to discard it. You're going to make it work for you. And then you now add other things as well. So in business analysis, a T-shaped professional is someone who has deep knowledge in one area. Remember, and broad knowledge across others. See a T, right? The T has the long bits, and then across it has the bar on the top. So you have broad knowledge about a lot of different things, but you have deep knowledge about some things as well. So this here in the UK, the British Computer Society is the body that regulates IT professionals, including business analysts. And for business analysis, we have a text that we usually use, and that's it. So this is a T shape, right? So across the bar, there are soft skills you need to learn. Negotiation, facilitation, presentation. That's why we say talk, because you're going to be able to present, you need to be able to present things. Relationship building, all these things are part of your skill sets. Then maybe you understand a particular industry, that domain. Maybe you understand the financial industry, or you understand the healthcare industry or the energy industry. That is an additional business skill. Then the deep knowledge now comes with your business analysis knowledge, where you're talking about things like requirements management that we did before, user acceptance testing, user stories, stakeholder management. All these things are skills and competencies of business analysis. So that's the bit that you go deep in your professional skills, right? So the way to do this is to be don't stifle. A lot of times as adults, you're curious about something, but then a voice is telling you, that's a stupid question, or don't ask that thing, or why are you, if they'll look down on you if you open your mouth and you say it this way, maybe your accent or the way you talk or whatever. Forget about all those things and talk. Just your curiosity, the questions you have, ask them, and then be a quick study. Remember what I told you before. I don't mind asking any question. The issue is if I don't want to ask that question twice, I don't want the person to think I wasn't paying attention. So if you give me the answer once, I want to remember it. I want to be able to document it. So be a quick study, be fast to read, research, watch things that will help you grow in your profession, and then put those skills to good use. Don't have skills and you're just keeping them and no one even knows about them, right? So these are just some ways to be a T-shaped professional. And it's actually one of the things we're encouraged to do within business analysis, right? So this is just something that will help you, and hopefully you even put it into practice in this course. So when I ask questions and I ask for participation, you unmute and you participate. Okay. All right. Cool. I'm going to go really fast because the time is very short, but this is text heavy. So because it's recorded, you can always listen to it over and over again. So again, like I mentioned, the kind of projects we manage here are agile projects. They're projects that are managed using the agile methodology. There are other kinds of methodologies. There's waterfall. There's which one again? I think there's another one. There are a number of different ones. There's Scrum. There are loads of different within agile. They actually have different kinds of methodologies as well. So when we say agile projects, we mean agile projects, specifically Scrum. There's safe, there's lean, there's Six Sigma. There are loads of different methodologies, but here we use agile methodology and specifically Scrum under agile. And agile development of projects is managed using short sprints. I'm sure you've heard of this before, so I won't dwell on this. We call them sprints. So every week, sprints are usually like it varies. The most popular one is 2 weeks, but it can be a week, it can be 4 weeks, but most sprints are 2 weeks. So very short cycle sprints where work is done in increments. So we it's almost like you know how they say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So yes, the project is massive, but we take it one at a time, one at a time, one at a time. We attack it one at a time. We get that one done. We go to another one. We attack it one at a time. So that's how the project is managed, as opposed to a waterfall project where they finish everything first. Like you do the whole discovery first before you move over to the next stage, to the next stage, to the next stage. So agile is very flexible. Change is easy within agile, and you get to see your value really really quickly. So it's called an iterative um methodology, right? Because things are done over short cycles, and then you get value over that cycle, right? And then so communication is very very important between project team members and stakeholders, that your business stakeholders, right? And again, delivery is, rather than waiting until everything can be delivered, we're like, okay, what is your minimum viable product? What is that thing that you can deliver, so we can even start using this thing while you do other things? Think about it like you're building a um a 10-story building, right? Um, maybe that's not the best what do they call it? That's not the best example, but just think of it this way: you're building a 10-story building. They'll start at the foundation first, then they'll build the lower floor, right? And then someone will stay there. And then they'll now build on the second floor. Then someone will move in there, and they'll now build into the third floor. So even though it's not really done in construction because it's not safe, obviously, but just think of it that way. Like, they get value rather than waiting for the whole 10 buildings, 10 floors of the building to be done. They want to get value out of bit by bit by bit by bit by bit. So you build floor one, people can start living there, can start earning rents ahead, and they'll now say, okay, let's expand. While we're earning this small money, or this one is still working small, let's now add to it and add to it and add to it. So that's how agile projects usually work. It's flexible. It requires a lot of teamwork, right? And then it speeds up delivery. So business stakeholders can see value quicker, rather than you're building a 10-story building. No one can enter that place or do anything until that whole 10-story building is finished. Imagine how long it will take. So the investors and the business people are going to wait until that whole 10. And then if something happens and that it's not the way they want it to be, well, sorry for you, the building has already been done. But with agile, if they build floor one and they're like, oh, okay, can we change a few things? Then floor two, they can change. Even floor one, so they can make quick changes and then continue with those changes in floor two, floor three, floor four. So it's, you add value quickly. And then like I said, it's very flexible. Yeah. And it's a very good way to work. A lot of businesses are doing more of agile projects these days. And these are just some of the businesses who have adopted the agile methodology. As you can see, they're all names, Microsoft, Netflix, all of them, most tech companies. It's very good for technology projects. Like I said, it's not really good for construction, regardless of the example I gave. You're building a bridge. No one's going to go, halfway. You want to finish building the bridge so it can be used. But for a lot of technology projects, which, as you can see, everything around us is governed by technology, is an enabler. So there's almost no industry you go to that you won't have agile projects. So it's very, very good to know. All right, so the BA's role in agile is, you keep hearing us say that the business analyst is the bridge between the business stakeholders and the product owner and the development team, right? So as a BA, because you're the link between all these very important stakeholders that are critical, vital to the success of the project, you have to be collaborative. You have to learn how to collaborate with all these people. That's why relationship building is so important. You have to learn how to work with all these people because you're working with the product owner to elicit requirements, refine them, prioritize them, all ahead, all so that the project team can have stuff to do. I won't go into that. I mentioned it on Wednesday. You can watch that video to get an example of what I said there. Then you now have to document it, right? And when you're documenting projects, especially when you're using the project, it's called an project delivery management board. Yeah, so you put all the different tasks on the board so everybody sees what everybody is working on. So we all know what we're working on as a team. In agile, there's not this person is taking their job and doing it separately. Everybody knows what everyone else is doing. It's very open, it's very transparent because we need to be aligned and we need to work together. If you have a problem, you say it out. Oh, I have a blocker here, I have a bug here, and then it's resolved and everyone moves, right? So it's very important to document it in a way that it can be used. And that means taking a requirement and breaking those requirements. Remember, requirements are business needs. So you're breaking those requirements into actionable pieces. It's just like someone says, bake me a cake, right? How do you bake a cake? You give the ingredients and then that's okay. Take two what they call it, eggs, break the eggs. So those are actionable pieces that if you follow that recipe or that action, you will get your cake at the end of the day. If you follow these actionable epics and features and user stories, you will get the product at the end of the day, right? So that's basically how you document the business needs or the requirements you get from business needs. And then, like I just talked about alignment, everybody's on the same page, right? So I know I'm going really quickly and I'm sharing a lot of different things, but if you have any questions, please let me know, right? So I told you that the requirements in an agile project are broken down into actionable pieces and they all have names, and I'll explain what they are. So this is a project. So you have a project. Let's say, for example, your project is to create a mobile app for a business, right? Where do we start? What's the first thing we do? How do we break that overall deliverable into workable pieces? So we can say, okay, we're building an app. How do we get what's the application? What's the software that app is going to run under? How is the app going to look? How are the users going to use it? What are they going to click? When they click this, what happens? So in order to build that app for a particular client with the requirements that you have gotten from the client, you have to break the deliverable into actionable pieces, and we call them epics, features, user stories, and tasks. Your epic is, what are we doing? I mean, why are we doing this thing? What do we want to get at the end of the day? What's the value you want to get? Your feature and your user story is, what exactly are we doing? And your task is, how are we doing this thing? Right? So again, I just said all of that. It's broken down into these things. Again, this is just a very, very quick stop of this topic. We'll take our time and we'll explain everything to you. We'll show you. In fact, even here, I can show you what a project board looks like, what all these things look like on the project board that we use for the project as well. I'll just show you what it looks like. So it's not just all theory. You can see what it looks like in real life. So this structure, as you can tell, it supports the delivery of that project. Otherwise, everything is just jumbled together. You don't know what comes first, what comes second. How are we going to build this thing that we're all saying that we want to have at the end of the day? You know what the overall picture is, then you now break it down into chunks. So remember, it's agile, it's broken down into sprint. So sprint 1, we're working on this particular area. For sprint 2, we're working on this particular area. For sprint 3, we're working on it, we're delivering it, it's done. Then we're moving to the next one. It's not like we're working on it and leaving it unfinished, though. We're working on it, we're delivering that piece. Once it's done, we move over to the next piece. Okay, so that's basically how this works. So in an agile project, right, the requirements again is broken into this hierarchy that I told you about. It's epic, feature. Let me go back again. User story, task. What does this look like to you, right? Let me give you an example. In a family, you have the child, you have the child's father, you have the child's grandfather, you have the child's great grandfather. Do you understand? So it's like a parenting line. So this thing is called parenting. That's actually what it's called. Just to give you another example, you have a book, right? We all know what books like. Each book has a chapter. And in that chapter, each chapter is made up of pages. Each pages are made up of words, right? So everything, there's a hierarchy. Everything is broken down in that way. So you have to follow that sequence, that hierarchy, right? And once you do that, the words make up the pages, which make up the chapters, which make up the book. So you have a book, there are 10 chapters. Each chapter has 50 pages. Each pages has 3,000 words. Obviously, it's not going to be like that, but just to give you an example of what this is, right? So that's just how you arrange it in your head. You break the project down into bigger chunks, which we call epics. Break those chunks into smaller deliverable pieces, which we call features, and then user stories and tasks. I'll explain them a bit more. So all these things live in a product backlog, right? Again, I'll show you what this looks like going forward. But these terms we're using, these are terms of a project. That's why your glossary, don't play with it though. All those things help. There's some you call the thing what it's called in projects. That's how people know that you know what you're talking about, right? So it lives in a product backlog, and that's what guides the agile development. Like I said, the epic is the larger work chunks, so the goals we want to achieve. Then you now break it down into functions and capabilities, and you break those into the user stories we talked about. Remember, we talked about user stories yesterday, where we said, on Wednesday, as a who is the user, I want to, what is the goal, so that what's the outcome, what's the benefit, what's the reason, right? So that's your user story. Then you have tasks. Now, if you want to be a QA, this task is your bread and butter, even developers as well. The BAs create the user story, and from the user story, the developers they create tasks. So, in order to make to work on or develop this functionality where the user wants to do such and such, so that functionality has to be developed. So out of this user story, the developers create tasks, and then the QAs also test the development of that task once it's been developed. So this is the sequence of the project delivery. This is how it all works. Okay, again, I'll show you what it looks like on a real live Azure DevOps board. That's what we use here. I've talked about the epics being the larger business objectives, right? So you have a large business objectives. What's the interface look like? the mobile delivery, like I said, you want to create an app. So what is the user interface look like? What does the landing page look like? The first page that the user lands on, what does that user, what do you normally see? You can see a header that has home button, logo, about us, contact us, sign in, log in. That's all on the top bits. Then you see the body of the page. Then you see the footer that has maybe social media, links, privacy, all these different things. Then in the body, then after if you click here, it will take you to this other page. That's what that looks like. How do we develop that thing? All these sites that you go online and you see, how are those sites developed? They are epics that are broken down into features. Again, your features are the key capabilities. In order to get that epic, you break it down into features. So these are the, the functionality that the end user is going to be able to interact with. Okay, so you break down epics into deliverable segments. We call them chunks of work, right? And then each one is specific. So remember, I told you about going to a website and seeing the landing page. The landing page is not the only page on the website. Think of Amazon, right? Just think of Amazon. Think of your bank website or your bank web page. It has so many different pages. But when you click on the URL, it takes you to the first page. That first page you are on is called the landing page. On that landing page, you see, like I said, the things on the header, the home page button, all those things about us. You see the things on the footer, right? So you can say the epic is the landing page. Then the features of that landing page. Now I want to break that landing page into features. You now say, okay, I have the header. Everything on that header bar, home, about us, contact us, all the things you see there, services, login, all those things are the features. There's another feature for the footer. There's another feature for, all the different aspects, but you break it down into smaller chunks. Then that feature, you now break it down into user stories. So let's take the header, for example. Remember, the header is a feature. I want to break that header now into work user stories. What is the requirement? So if, for example, I'm a user and I land on my bank mobile page and I want to find out about the services that the bank offers, and I go onto the header, one of those buttons on the header will have services on it. When I click on that button, what does the bank want to happen? Where do I find myself? Oh, a services page is displayed. Then I now go onto that service page and I can look at the different services. I can see my account information. I can see my transactions. I can see my payments, my what they call these things now, monthly, what the direct debits that go out, all these different things that go out regularly. I can see all this information. So when you as a business analyst are writing that story, because you want that functionality to be developed, you say, as a user, when I click on the service button, so as a user of NatWest Bank, for example, I want to click on the services button so that the services page is displayed and I can see ABCD, 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 right? So that is what is now going to be developed by the developer. Because if you tell him, I want a landing page, what is on the landing page? 1,001 things can be on the landing page. Or I want a header. What does the header look like? How is it arranged? 1,000 things can be there. So it's by breaking it down into saying, this is how I want this aspect to look. This is how I want it to be arranged on the page. This is how I want it to function. This is what I want the user to see. And then when the user clicks on this thing, that's what happens. All those things, even this application I'm using now, when I click on a button, it changes. Someone had to develop it now. So in order for someone to develop it, a BA had to write that story to say when a user clicks on PowerPoint, this will happen. This feature, this will happen. So it's all our lives, every interaction you see a bus and you click on the bus button, and the light comes up, and the driver knows, okay, is the stop. That's technology. Someone had to write that functionality. That's why we'll always have work, because our lives are being developed around us. You just like you're working in the business that is doing a particular. Think of the person working in Apple. When they finish developing it, I get an update. That update has said this is how the update will look. Someone, a BA had to write that story, a developer had to develop it, a tester had to test it. My goodness, that's what it's about. Okay. So, because of time, I'm rushing. So, like I said, tasks are now the actionable work items. So, the BAs write these parts. To be honest with you, the BAs write epics and features. But the bits that the developers and your QAs are interested in are your user stories, because this is what they need to develop and this is what they need to test. Okay. So, once you've created your user story, they will now write tasks to say, in order to get that functionality that was described in the user story, I need to develop these particular things. So tasks are those things that need to be executed, developed in order to get that user story, the way that user story is written. Because the testers are going to use that user story and test the development. And if the development doesn't match the user story, they're going to say, excuse me, there's a problem. Something doesn't work here. When I click the button, it's supposed to take me to services page. But when I click on it, it takes me to the home page. Something is wrong here. It doesn't work. They'll raise a bug. They'll say there's a problem. And the developer has to go back again and make sure that the output matches the story. That's why at the end of the day, the stakeholder will get what they want, because the whole project has been set up in such a way that I want to get exactly what you want. I will document it in a way that is developed. It will be tested and you get exactly what you want. Stakeholder expectation met. It's not like, oh, I thought that it was going to look this way. No assumptions. We know what we're doing. It's properly articulated, properly documented. We go back again to say, are you sure this is what you want? Can you confirm? Can you approve? Great. Now that you've approved, you can work on it. So it's everything is sequential. Everybody is doing their own part, like your body. Every part is supplying its own, doing its own thing, and everything is working together in harmony. So at the end of the day, what you say you want, you will get. So that's how this all works, right? So because of time, we're supposed to stop here and have like a bit of a chat. We have another one a bit later, but we won't be able to do that because of time. If not, we won't be able to go through everything we have today. So I want to delve a bit more into user stories. So for our part two, we're going to go again, just go over what user stories look like. Remember, as a BA, a huge part of our task is focused on documenting, getting the requirements, documenting the requirements as user stories. And we're going to talk about acceptance criteria, wireframing, Q&A. Now, remember I told you what a user story is as a I want so that. But that's not all a user story is. A user story is a bit more. I undersold it. I kind of gave you a bit of, it's almost like you're showing someone half of the story. It's correct, oh, but you didn't finish everything. So let me just try and give you a bit more of what the user story does. Okay. So a user story is made up of, especially when you're using the agile methodology and we're using the project delivery method that we use, which is Azure DevOps, is broken down into three main parts, right? You have the description, which is as a I want so that, right? Then you have the acceptance criteria, right? What's the acceptance criteria? What are those things that story has to be able to deliver on so that I can fulfill the user story? So let me give you an example, right? You say you want a cake, right? You want I want as a bride to be, I want a wedding cake so that I can celebrate my wedding on my wedding day. So we know what that is. But that can be so many different things. You haven't told me anything. I'm jumping ahead of myself though. But yeah, so I think there's an exercise that breaks it down. So let me not go ahead of that. But basically, your user story is broken down into these three things. Your acceptance criteria is what um what are the deliverables, what exactly is the checklist that that user story needs to pass in order to say that you've delivered exactly what the business wants. As AI wants, so that is very general. It's too vague. It can be many things to many people. So your acceptance criteria breaks down all the different things that you have to deliver on for you to fulfill or satisfy that user story. And then you now have supporting documentation. This can be wireframing. Again, wireframing is something that we're going to cover in the course. Okay. So we've seen this before. We know what this looks like. As a who is the user? I want, what do you want? So that, why do you want it? We've gone over this before. I'm not going to spend time on it. The bits that we need to, I'll just quickly remind you of best practices when it comes to writing user stories. It has to be role specific. You must have a user in mind and you must write it from that user's perspective. That's why BAs are we're very easy to work with, because we can put ourselves in multiple situations at the same time. I when I talk with the PO as a BA, I put myself in the PO's product owner. PO means product owner. I put myself in the product owner's place and I write stories from that perspective. When I'm writing stories for a developer, I put myself in the place of a developer and write stories from that perspective. When I'm writing stories for a QA, I put myself in that perspective and I write stories, from that, so that I write stories as a QA so that I can understand what the QA wants and deliver on that. Same thing with a customer. When you're writing stories for a customer, your different stakeholders, we are so used to putting ourselves in other people's shoes and writing stories, focusing on who the user is and making sure that we write stories or write user stories from that user's perspective, right? And then you have to include the acceptance criteria. I'll talk about that. Your language has to be simple. We're not the technical ones. There are loads of technical people out there. So we want to use simple language so everybody will understand the same thing, right? And then you make sure that the refinement process is you maintain that refinement process. Refinement is when you document a user story, you go back to the stakeholder so that they can verify that it's complete, it's correct. That's refinement. You gave me this requirement, I've documented it. Could you review it to make sure that it's correct? It's written the way you want it to be written. It captures all the detail you want it to capture. It's correct. Once that refinement process is done, it's approved. And then from once the story is approved, they can start working on it. And all the supporting documentation that comes from it. You say, okay, I want to create a logo. Oh yeah, where's the logo now? Do you want me to create the logo or do you have a logo to give me? So if you want me to put the logo on the far left corner of the page and you have a logo in mind, then you supply the logo so I can put it where you want me to put it. Or you want me to create one, then let me know that you need me to create one. So sometimes stories need supporting additional documentation, wireframes, right? You want me to create a landing page. Where is everything? How is everything arranged? Where do you want the login button? Where do you want the footer to be? Is it on the left? Is it on the right? Is it in the middle? You can show me what that looks like with a very simple wireframe. Again, wireframing is something that we'll discuss in the project, and we'll actually give you access to a wireframing tool. We use Balsamic here, which is one of the best low about wireframing tools. Let me not go into detail. So it will give you access to that as well and teach you how to use it. So that's one of the classes we go over. Yes, now acceptance criteria. Let's go into what exactly acceptance criteria is. Remember, you're writing your user story to be developed and to be tested. So when it's being tested, right? What is the checklist that the QAs are going to have to go through to say this thing meets the requirements that, or it meets the standard that has been requested? The acceptance criteria, what is that? What is that scenario that needs to be met in order for the user story to be complete, to say yes, we have delivered on this user story, right? And the same way the user story has its own format as a I want, so that the acceptance criteria has multiple formats, but in the agile delivery process, we use a format called the Gherkin syntax. Again, if you don't worry about it, honestly, this is just to touch some of the things that we're going to go into, and then we'll take it in depth during the course. So a user story is not complete without the acceptance criteria. What what um what is the checklist? What does this story have to satisfy? What is the criteria? I'm trying to get another word to use, right? What are the things that this story has to satisfy in order for it to be acceptable, to say that this thing is complete, the user story has been successfully delivered? That's your checklist, your acceptance criteria. Again, so this was where I was going to initially, so I just stopped myself. So now let's have a discussion. I hope you're ready to have this discussion with me. This is a very simple example, right? So whether you're male or female, put yourself in that perspective. So please unmute and give me your thoughts. So we have this user story, right? As a bride or a groom, I want a wedding cake so that my guests can enjoy a lovely dessert at the reception. Now, even if they're just one person or two people, at least two people, please. More if you want. But if you're ordering a cake for your wedding, what kind of cake do you want to order? Let's start by asking you, how many tiers will the cake be? How many guests are in the wedding? Anybody can unmute and talk. How many guests are you planning to serve cake to at your reception?
50.
50. Awesome. Anybody else?
200.
200. Fantastic. Okay, next question. How many tiers do you want it to be? So you know how cakes are layered. So how many layers do you want it to be?
3
7.
layers.
3 tiers. Someone said 7. Yeah? Did I hear 3
That's
and
right.
7?
That's right.
Fantastic. Okay. What of your flavors? What flavor do you want on your wedding cake?
Vanilla.
Yeah, strawberry.
Someone said vanilla, someone said strawberry. Brilliant. Thank you guys so much. Um, frosting, the way you decorate the frosting. What kind of frosting do you want? There's sugar frosting, there's cheese frosting, there are different kinds of frosting. What kind of frosting do you want? Hard
Sugar.
frosting, soft frosting, different kinds. What kind do you want?
Buttercream.
Oh, you see, you even know the frosting more than I know it. Buttercream. Who likes sugar frosting?
Sugar.
No, sugar. Thank you very much, sugar. Fantastic. Okay, what color do you want your frosting to be like? And what color?
Your color.
What?
White.
White. What else?
Gold.
Gold. Okay, fantastic. Are you allergic to anything? Maybe are you allergic to gluten, or are you allergic to what else? Maybe are you vegan? You don't want a cake that has anything that has, animal products in it. Any dietary restrictions at all? Are you allergic to anything?
No.
No. Okay. What about elements of decoration? What kind of decoration do you want it to have?
Floral decor.
Floral. So you want flowers. Who else wants something else? There's this nice cake they have that is drip. They drip the what do they call it? The frosting down the sides. Or maybe
Yeah.
they write something on it. Do you want something written on it or just flowers?
Yes, right up on the board.
Writing. Okay, fantastic. I can stop here. Okay, so this is your remember the user story we're working with as a bride. I want a wedding cake so that my guests can eat dessert. If you don't know the answer to all these questions and your caterer comes and gives you a one-tiered cake that is colored blue, that is chocolate, that can feed 100 people, that is maybe they have maybe they have sparkles, or they decorate it with gummy bears or M&Ms, and they tell you, here you go, this is your wedding cake. Will you not riot?
Yes,
Won't you?
Yeah,
Yeah, but they
definitely.
give you a wedding cake. You're the bride and they give you a wedding cake, and that cake, your guests can eat it. So if you just go by the user story, they have actually fulfilled the thing, but they haven't done it the way you want it. So yes, I know I want a wedding cake, but before I accept that wedding cake for you, it has to be. Meanwhile, you've given me different parameters. Which one am I going to follow? Is it going to be 3 or is it going to be 7? Is it going to be buttercream or is it going to be sugar? Is it going to be vanilla or is it going to be strawberry? So we have to agree on the criteria that cake must fulfill before I will accept it. We have to agree. If it's 7 tiers, then if you give me 6 tiers, I will not agree because it doesn't pass the acceptance criteria. If you give me 8, I will not agree because it's more than what I wanted. If you give me a flavor that is different from vanilla, I will not accept it because I told you I wanted vanilla. So this checklist that the user story must fulfill in order to be accepted is called the acceptance criteria. The user story is not enough. It doesn't have enough detail. It can be 1,000 things. But if you want to be specific, there must be a checklist to say the cake has to be a particular number of cake. It has to be this flavor. It has to be this. It has to be able to feed 500 people. Blah, 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 blah. All the acceptance criteria, you list everything out. I use this example. I'm going to show you what it is now in a technical environment. This is an example that we all know. This is something we can all relate to. But now let me show you what it looks like in a technical scenario. So this is a user story. As a user, I want to be able to log into the application so I can access my account. Even this user story itself, don't worry, when you come in as a BA, this user story, we can work on it. So acceptance criteria, remember, it's Gherkin. We're following the Gherkin syntax. The Gherkin syntax is given, when, then. That's the Gherkin syntax. The same way the user story was as a, I want, so that. That cadence. For the acceptance criteria, the Gherkin syntax is given, when, then. What does this mean? Given is what is the precondition? Precondition means what do I need to fulfill in order to even start this process at all? right? So if you look at this user story and then the Gherkin syntax, it says, given I am on the login page, a user can be on any page of a website. They can be on the landing page, they can be on the service page, they can be on the policy page, many different pages on the website. The precondition is as a user who is on the login page. If I'm not on the login page, then we're not even, that's not the user we're talking about. This user must start from the login page. That's the starting point. So the precondition is I'm a user who is now currently on the login page of this website. Yeah, then what next? When? What action am I taking? What do I do as a user? So I'm already on the login page. That's the precondition. Given I enter my username and password, that's the action I take as a user. The next action is I click on a login button. So the action can be multiple things. But once you're under when, you're talking about the action, then is your final outcome. Then I should be taken to the dashboard page. So when I'm a user who is on the login page, I enter my username and password and I click on the login button, then I am taken to a dashboard page. If the QAs do not see this thing in this sequence, they will fail this story. They will tell you that you have not developed it the way that must be the user story states. The user story doesn't have enough detail. So when it comes to testing, this is what the QAs will test, the acceptance criteria. That's what they will test. Okay? So there are different kinds of criteria. Like I said, there are different. The acceptance criteria can be make sure that the user can do this, verify that the user can do that. We're not using that. That's rule-based criteria. We're not doing that. We want scenario-based criteria, which is your given, when, then. Because it's creating a scenario for you. It's not saying check that I can enter my username and my password. Check that I can click the login button. Check that I can get access to the dashboard page. That's the rule-based one. When the scenario-based one is tell me a story, scenario, put me in the position of the user who is actually using the product we're working on. So this you can picture a user on the login page, entering their username and password, clicking on the login button, and then this is the page. It has painted a picture for you, a scenario. And there can be multiple scenarios to one user story. Let me show you what I mean by that. So like I said, a user story are those conditions, that checklist that a user story, I beg your pardon, acceptance criteria is the condition that a user story must satisfy before it can be passed as correct, complete, done. Yes, I'm happy with it. If it fails any of these lines, the QAs will raise a bug. They'll say there's a problem. This thing is not acting the way we want it to act. And it goes back to the developer who will correct it before it comes back to them again. And they'll check it again. And when it passes, they're like, we're good. It's passed. Okay. So again, this is another example. We're still sticking with our login example. So I'm a registered user of a website. This is better. That one just said I'm a user. Of what? Of where? So more specificity is always good. As a user of a website, I want to log into my account so I can access my personal account details. Now, I remember I told you there are different scenarios. So this is the scenario of a successful login. Given I'm a registered user, that's your precondition. An unregistered user cannot fulfill this because the precondition is I must be registered. If I'm not registered, we're not even here yet. So the user has to be a registered user who has valid details, right? So given I'm a registered user of this ABC website and I have the correct username, correct password, when I enter my username and my password, then I am successfully logged into my account. So given, when, then, precondition, action, outcome. What is the second scenario? Think of when you're using a website, any website. Sometimes You have issues with login. What happens when it's unsuccessful? That's another scenario. How does the system react? So we have scenario 2. The same user, right? So I'm a registered user on this website, but my username and my password are not correct. Maybe I put the wrong email, or I didn't put in my complete password. Instead of putting A, I put E. And I click the same submit button. It won't let me in because my username and my password are not correct. These are security measures. Your username has to be valid. And it says, then I see an error message and I remain on the page. So this is your successful login, unsuccessful login. Whether you're a developer, you're a BA, you're a QA, this scenario, this setup matters to you because this is how you work in an agile what do you call agile framework. See, it's easy. It's very, very simple. Once you understand how it works, it's so easy. That's why we say this thing, if someone just shows you what to do, you can do it very easily. But you just need someone to say, this is how you do it. That's all. Right? So moving forward, time. So very quickly, the same way your product owner, right, has to give you the requirements and approve the requirements, they also have to verify and accept the acceptance criteria. They have to approve the acceptance criteria. The PO must agree to it, okay? And it must be clear and unambiguous. Either you pass or you fail. There's no in between. So either this story passes or it fails, right? Remember, I told you, once it fails one of those lines on the acceptance criteria, it will fail. It will just go a bug. It's not like they will say fail. It's just that you raise a bug to say this thing has a problem because you want it to be resolved now. It's not like, oh, pass and fail. No, this thing has not passed the acceptance criteria. So can we fix the issue? And then we'll test it again and it will pass. That's just all. It has to be realistic. It has to be tied to the story and it has to be validated through testing. Whew, that was a very long, very quick run through. Like I said, all these things will be broken down for you and you'll be able to use it. Yes, I promised you I was going to show you what a product backlog looks like. So just to complete this, mastering acceptance criteria is a journey. You can see the examples I'm giving, very simple examples, right? And that's why when you simplify it, you understand that this thing is not that complex. You like I said, how do you eat a big elephant? Just one chunk at a time, little by little by little. Before you know it, you look back and you finish the whole elephant. So something that looks very big and complex, we simplify it. We break it down. We tell you step 1, step 2, step 3. Okay. Oh no, go back again. You didn't do step 2 properly. Let's do it again. You do it again until you get it right. Right? And then before you know it, it's like second nature to you. So remember to practice. It's not theoretical, it's practical, right? And then you keep getting more and more detailed. The more you know, you just keep getting more and more and more. Again, this is a an example that you can. I'll just leave it here for a minute before I go to the product backlog. But you can use this to practice, right? So a local grocery store is launching an online ordering and delivery service, and you as a user wants to open an account with them so you can use their service. So you can write acceptance criteria, user stories and acceptance criteria for successful registration, unsuccessful registration, successful login, unsuccessful login, lost password, delete account. These are things we use every day. You have an Amazon account, you have a Tesco account, you have an M&S account, all these online shopping that we do. These things are things you know how to do in your sleep. It's not going to be different from any other organization or any other. The principle is different. Maybe you tweak one thing or two here or there, but we all know how, just like driving a car, even if you're driving Mercedes or you're driving Honda, the technique is still the same. It's just that there are a few things that are different. So it's things we know how to do. So if you want to try your hand at it, I'm very happy for you to use this as a take-home test. The next thing is, I think, question and answer. But before we go to question and answer, I want to share my screen and show you what a product backlog looks like. Okay, so this is a project that we're working on in the advanced group, right? So this is called the Azure DevOps board. I'm pretty sure the Scrum during your Scrum Masters test course, you talked a bit about this. So this is what it looks like, right? And so this is called a product backlog, right? So this is where all these things here now are epics, right? So we're working on, this is a project, a web application development project we're working on, and these are epics. So you have admin journey, courses journey, instructor, all these are epics. Then when you click on this, you see the features. So under the let me click on under the courses journey, there are 3 features. So you have course journey, course management, free courses. These features are parented under this courses journey epic. Then you now click on the courses journey here. See all the different user stories under this feature, right? So all these are user stories that have been written under this feature. Then you now click on a particular user story. Then these are the tasks. So as you can see, this is the epic, this is the feature, this is the user story, this is the task. As you can see, the task is by QA for manual testing, automation testing, all of that. And that's how it all is, just going down. You have all of this going down and all of that. If there are bugs, you'll see bugs. So this is what it looks like on an Azure DevOps board. This is a live project board that we're working on at the moment. So this is we'll give you access to this board, and you'll be able to show you how to do all of this, right? It's not rocket science. It's stuff we do regularly. All of us here in advanced are people that went through internship as well. So we're all learning and we're all getting better. So don't let any of this intimidate you. It's not that big of a deal, and it sets you up for as the best top in the market. The fact that I could use an Azure DevOps board till today, there are still people in my organization that don't know how to use this. They prefer Jira or Monday or one other one. This is a Microsoft product. This is made by Microsoft, so it's top of the, yeah. So anyway, yes. So that's basically, I just wanted to show you what this is and all of that. It's yeah, so now let's go back to questions and answers. I'll just stop sharing. If you have any questions and answers, any questions, I beg your pardon, I'm happy to take them. Any comments, any questions, anything at all. I like sticking to my time. I know that went really quickly, but like I said, we'll be able to break it down for you during the actual internship and make sure you understand, give you access to it, walk you through all of these things. And it's a lot of information to take in an hour. I completely understand. So don't be intimidated. I know it's a bit overwhelming, but it's going to be broken down and you'll be able to work through it. There's nothing like seeing something, it looks too far ahead. If someone gives you access and like, okay, play with this thing, create user stories, let's tweak this user story, change it this way, move it here. Before you know it, it's not as intimidating to you anymore. So that's basically, and then for BAs as well, apart from your tutorials, that's why I'm available on Fridays. On Fridays, we have like a workshop. So it's not a tutorial class. It's for you to come in and say, okay, this is what I learned during the week. I have questions. could you answer this question, answer this question? So even things, maybe you go through a particular class and then you get access to it and you're using wireframes or you're creating user stories and like, okay, I still have a few questions. We have a workshop where it's over to you, so it's ask me anything. So you come there and you're like, okay, I tried to create this user story and this is the feedback I got and it didn't really work. And not only that, you have mentors. So before you, there was a class. Those people have now become your buddies because they are the ones that have just completed the class you're in now. So they can relate to you more than anything. Then you now have mentors, people like me, people like a lot of other mentors. I'm not just going to be your only tutor for even business analysis. There are multiple tutors, right? So you get exposed to so many people who are just here to help you because we've all been through all of this. I've been overwhelmed. I've been like, can I ever learn on any of this? I do this for my day job. So if I can, like I keep saying, then you can as well. So yeah, any questions?